Welcome to the Selling Show, where we unpack, repack, and break down exactly how top experts sell their ideas, their value, and their services. This is your host, David Newman, and you are in the right place if you want better clients, bigger deals, and higher fees. Let me tell you about Baer. Baer is a customer experience and marketing expert, author, researcher, and advisor. Now listen carefully. He's a 7th generation entrepreneur, author of 6 best-selling books, and founder of 5 multi-million-dollar businesses. Jay, welcome to the show. I do have one question though.
Yes, sir.
You're going 7, 6, 5. I'm waiting for the partridge in a pear tree. I mean, we're going to fill in 4, 3, 2, 1. Come on.
Yes, 4 meals a day.
There you go.
That's what we're going to go.
4 meals a day.
That's what happens when you have your mom write your bio in your intro. See, don't ever do that.
Well, it is totally great to have you back. You are a Renaissance man, and the latest and greatest piece of thought leadership that we're here to talk about today is time to win. Talk about what time to win is all about and sort of how that fits into your empire of customer experience and digital marketing.
It's a brand new national research study of consumers about patience and business responsiveness. As you said, I've done a lot of work in customer experience over the years. And in fact, almost all of my books have a section about speed, how you can differentiate yourself versus your competition by just being faster. But this, David, is my deepest dive yet. It's a full research study based only on consumer patience and business responsiveness. And as it turns out, of all the different components and pieces of customer experience, the one that is perhaps the most important, especially now coming out of the pandemic, is in fact speed and responsiveness. In this study, we found that 2/3 of customers say that speed is as important to them as price. It's pretty amazing.
And I also read that they're willing to pay more, and I'm not talking like a little more. Talk about the value and the price elasticity of companies that really embrace speed.
It's crazy. You know, here's the thing. Somebody asked me the other day, why does this matter? Like, we all know it does. Like, we all know that speed is important. But I think the reason is that time is the only thing, literally the only thing, David, that we all possess equally. It doesn't matter if you're Elon Musk or somebody who's experiencing homelessness. It doesn't matter if you're in Georgia, the state, or Georgia, the country. It doesn't matter if you're 15 or 95. We all have 1,440 minutes a day. And in this increasingly go-go world that we live in, where everything is a click away, our perceptions of time and our frustrations about waiting have been altered. And so now, if we perceive that we are, quote unquote, wasting time, or someone else, especially a business, is wasting our time, it drives us really, really bonkers. And to ameliorate against that, consumers, especially we saw it in this study, are willing to pay, in some cases, as much as 50% more for the same goods or services if they can just get it immediately. This has actually been creeping into society for a while. You're familiar with the Disney Fast Pass, right? You pay Disney to come to Disney World, but hey, if you want to get on the rides with no waiting, you can pay this auxiliary fee and you kind of go to the front of the line. This idea of including a Fast Pass option in your business, I think, works for lots and lots of companies. Why can't you be the Fast Pass plumber? Why can't you be the Fast Pass accountant? Why can't you be the Fast Pass hamburger restaurant or online course creator or anything else? I think you can be, and maybe you should be.
So there's an old adage, and I don't know who originated it, but it's about sort of the effect, the internet effect. And this is, I know this is old and this is a cliche, but bear with me. With the internet, or the interwebs, as we affectionately call them, the expectation was reset to cheap, fast, and good. And then they said, well, that's great. Now it's free, now, and perfect.
Exactly.
But we're talking about the now piece. What messages does it send if a company embraces speed?
Well, it demonstrates to your customers or prospective customers that you respect them, that you appreciate them, that you understand just how important their time is. And that actually operates on 3 dimensions. And we studied this very specifically in this research. We looked at attitudes around speed. So if a business is faster or slower than consumers expect, how does that make customers feel? And if it's faster, it's things like respected. And if it's slower, it's things like angry and disappointed. So it has an emotional correlation. Then we said, well, that's cool. You can manipulate customer emotions by being faster or slower. But ultimately, we're here to make money. So what's the financial implications? Holy mackerel, right? The implications for being faster or slower than customers expect are very, very significant on the revenue side. Some 4 to 5 in 10 customers say that if a business is slower than they expect to respond, to give them an estimate, to ship an item, whatever the case may be, 4 or 5 out of 10 customers say specifically that they're less likely to spend money with that business. You think about what that is at scale for an organization, it is frightening to consider.
Holy smokes, so much value in this episode. Listen, if you are loving what you're hearing, feel free to download, subscribe, tell a friend, leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to The Selling Show. Now, back to the interview. And I'm guessing, I know that this wasn't necessarily the focus of the study, but in a sales situation, right? Oh, go to our website, fill out our form, or, message us on your favorite social platform. When those go into cyberspace with no response or response days later, what kind of impact does that have as the initial part of the customer experience?
Oh, it just paints this picture of disrespect. And I'll tell you, you do that kind of thing at your own peril. 2 stats from the research I think are germane here. More than half of all customers say that they have specifically hired a business in a competitive scenario because they were the first to respond, even if they were not the least expensive. Happened to me not long ago. We were looking for a painter for the house and got 3 bids, as you do. And one painter got back to me in 4 hours, and one was about a day, and one was 3 days. And guess which one I hired? Of course, the one that was 4 hours. They were not the least expensive. But you think, geez, if they're slow to get back to you when you're trying to give them money, I don't think they're going to be very fast when you've already given them money, right? And so that operates on every business dynamic, right? It doesn't matter if you're big or small or B2C or B2B. But I was laughing to myself when you're talking about pushing people to a particular contact and mechanism, go to our website and fill out the form. There's a lot of organizations who sort of have that. This is where leads go to die, right? And a lot of it is the online contact form. And you think, oh, you know what? If the consumer is using the contact us form instead of calling or emailing or texting or whatever, then it must not be that important to them. So we can take our time getting back to them. I think that's a fairly common state of affairs, but it's not actually true. In fact, 2/3, it's almost 70% of customers expect a reply from an online website contact us form within 24 hours. And I can tell you firsthand, and I know you will back me up on this, there are a whole bunch of businesses that are not responding to contact us forms within 24 hours.
For sure. Well, and also as a speaker, Hall of Fame speaker, let's be clear, as a Hall of Fame speaker, I've always said that the speaker that responds is the speaker that gets hired. In your experience as, by the way, you're the Hall of Fame speaker, not me. My pronouns weren't in the right spot.
We'll work on that.
Yeah, thank you. So the idea that, hey, and this is true in any professional service, right? It's sell, deliver, sell, deliver. Oh, I got a message. Oh, I got an email. Oh, someone filled out the contact form. They can wait. It turns out they can't wait. They really can't wait because they're going to move on. Like you said, 3 bids. They're calling 3 speakers. They're calling 3 consulting firms.
It's so true in the speaking business because it might be 3 weeks until the event, and there has been sort of a foreshortening of lead time in many cases, but it might be 3 weeks to the event, and it might be 3 months to the event, and it might even be 9 months to the event. But when the meeting planner or whomever has been tasked with doing the short list for speakers, whenever they start down that path, that research path, they want to complete that task as quickly as possible. So this idea that, well, the event's not for a while, so I can get back to this inquiry later rather than sooner is completely wrong. In my business, between myself and my agent, Michelle Joyce, we respond to all inquiries within 15 minutes without fail.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. And that's just a priority thing, correct? I mean, that's not hard to do. You're a very busy guy. You've got an empire that you're running. You've got a team. Someone on the team needs to respond to these things, and it may even be their primary responsibility, correct?
Yeah. And look, I have focused on speed as a competitive differentiator for 20 plus years. So it's no surprise that I'm now doing a whole research project on it. I am always connected, right? So this idea that like, hey, 4-hour work week, only check your email, at 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. It's like, cool, please do that. And I'll take all your customers because
Right.
I will respond instantly and people will freak out at how responsive I am and they will never call you back.
There was also another interesting statistic. There's so many good things, by the way, in the Time to Win report. Who do they blame? Who do they typically blame when like the email goes into a black hole, the voicemail goes unanswered for 3-4 days, and you have a very interesting breakdown of that. Was any of that surprising? And give us the answer.
A little bit. So we asked the participants, and this is not, a 200 person $50 survey. This is a 2,000 respondent survey that is pegged to census data. This is real meaningful college level research with a 2.5% plus or minus. This is real stuff. We asked the participants, so when it takes longer than you expect, who do you blame? And I thought, David, that especially kind of with the climate that we're in right now, that most consumers would say, well, it's the CEO's problem because, fish rots from the head and all that. So we asked them, do you blame the CEO or the owner? Option 1. Do you blame the customer service department kind of leader manager? That's option 2. Option 3, the frontline customer service workers. And I really thought that most of the ire would go towards management and ownership, especially because we're in sort of this workers first era right now. And it's not true. Half of the consumers blame the frontline customer service workers. Only 10% blame the CEO or owner. So here we go. The fat cats are getting a pass again, as always. And I got to tell you, having consulted with lots and lots of brands in my career, ultimately, the person to blame probably is the CEO and owner because responsiveness is typically just a choice of how you allocate your resources. There's no special sauce. You don't have to have all kinds of crazy skill sets or software or expertise. You just have to say, we care enough, as I do in my business and you do in your business, we care enough to respect the time of people who want to get a hold of us, and we're going to respond quickly, and we're going to put the resources against it to make that happen. That's it. And those resource allocations are typically made by owners and managers. They're certainly not made by the person on the front line.
Let's talk about, I think, maybe the most hated thing in customer service. I'm guessing, but I'm guessing, hello, thank you for calling. Your call is very important to us. We are experiencing peak demand, peak calls right now. Wait times may be longer than expected. Yeah. Right? We've heard this a million times, and like right away, it starts to grate on your nerves.
Yes.
What was the research around what response time is acceptable in a situation like that? And when do people just throw up their hands and give up?
It totally depends on the channel. It's interesting because we expect something different depending on which tool in the toolbox we use to outreach, right? So we expect 1 hour, we by consumers overall expect 1 hour or less response time. And this is more leaving a message probably than waiting on hold.
Sure.
About half the time when we call. So we leave somebody a message, a voicemail, we expect to call back within an hour, half the time, or half the customers expect that. And so it varies based on channel. But what's funny about your example, David, is that expectations are everything, right? There is no magic number. It's what do you expect? And then what is the actuality of it? And when businesses say something like, well, we've got a higher than average call volume, so it may take longer than you expect, they think these businesses, they're doing a good thing, which is, let's manage expectations. But they're actually making it worse because you never tell them how long that is. So it's longer than I expect. Cool. Is that 11 minutes or is that 111 minutes? So I love the businesses. I mean, I prefer to just somebody answers the phone right away, but I love the businesses who take it one step further. And it does require some additional software to say it's taking longer than anticipated. We expect that your call will be answered in 17 minutes or 20. And then I can decide whether I think it's worth that investment. But to just say it's going to be longer, sorry, I think that's actually throwing gas on a fire of your own creation.
Right. We don't care, and we don't care if you're upset.
Well, and customers don't care either. Well, I think one of the most interesting stats in this research, and one that really did shock me, is we asked, hey, so this whole idea of, we're coming out of COVID and there's labor shortages and supply chain, and there's a restaurant here in town that for whatever reason can't get turkey. There's no turkey available. We can get chicken all day long. You want turkey? Sorry, we don't have any turkey. And it's been like that for a while. And I don't know what the turkey problem is, but it's severe. And so we asked people in this study, well, what do you expect? Do you expect businesses to be fast like they were before the pandemic? Shocked me. 83% of consumers say that they expect businesses to be as fast or faster than they were before the pandemic. So this notion that you're going to get a pandemic pass, that your customers will be like, yeah, we understand times are tough. You don't have as many workers. Nope, it's over. They don't care. They're like, it's been 2 years. Get your shit together.
Yes, I know. Terrific episode here, but have you seen our latest web training? Oh my goodness, pop over there right now, or as soon as you're done listening to this episode, it's doitmarketing.com/webinar. See you over there. Back to the good stuff.
Another interesting thing, Jay, that jumped out at me is, certainly as a video game fan, the need for speed, but the need for speed throughout the customer journey, like from initial contact all the way to, hey, I'm a 10-year customer and I need some help with something. Talk about how that from kind of end to end, I'd like to get some product information. I'd like to talk to somebody. Maybe I'll buy, maybe I won't. How that kind of tracked through, and anything surprising there?
It actually did surprise me. We wanted to document that pretty specifically because, depending on where you're at in your buyer's journey, you may have a different set of attitudes and expectations around speed and responsiveness. So we asked, okay, well, how important is speed when you're just doing product research? How important is speed when you're setting an appointment or making a purchase or getting a delivery, or if you have a problem and need help?
Or even paying the money.
Right.
Like, how fast can I pay you money?
Exactly. Well, it turns out that speed and responsiveness is super important all the way across. It was much, much more consistent than I expected when we wrote this up. 67% of customers say that speed is important or very important, even at the very, very beginning of the process when they're just doing product research. And then it goes all the way up to 83% when you actually have already purchased something and you have a problem. But all the way across, or if you look at a funnel, all the way down, every single interaction with the customer values speed and responsiveness, and not just a little bit, a lot. And I think it's a really important finding for business, David, because there's no question that a lot of organizations run their business operationally like, okay, we're really focused on kind of customer experience and speed at this moment in time. But down here, it's less important and we'll get around to it. And then it's important again over here, but over here, not so much. And what this research shows very, very consistently is you've got to figure out how to be fast all the time, all the way through. And that's going to be a real shakeup for some folks.
Yes. And especially the one that really jumped out at me, the second place in the bar graph was 79% for getting an appointment, getting a sales appointment, for heaven's sakes. If you're not fast with that, you might as well throw in the towel.
Absolutely, because that's when people are really saying, look, I'm on that chutes and ladders to a purchase. And I think there's this perception that if it's really hard to just kind of have an appointment set and have that initial kind of meaningful conversation, then it sort of sets the tone for the entire relationship thereafter. So it makes you wonder, like, okay, how can we get faster at that kind of thing at appointment setting? And you think about sort of the rise of things like Calendly, et cetera, and these automated appointment setting widgets and tools and email. I think that is a good step in the right direction. Many of those are used by individuals and probably should be used more by businesses.
For sure. Another thing that really jumped, and there's so many, you asked really interesting questions. This isn't just kind of straight up research. This is really, I think, fascinating. Talk about which generation is least patient, because you did that on an absolute scale and you did it on a relative scale, right? People older than me, people about my age, people younger than me, and some of the perceptions there. What were some of the cool findings in that area?
Another one that really surprised me, actually, it's the opposite of what I expected. So we asked everybody who participated, 2,000 people, who is the least patient? People younger than me, people older than me, or people about my age? And half of the respondents said people younger than me are the least patient. And to me, that actually makes sense because there is this narrative that young people are impatient because they grew up with technology. They grew up in the internet age. They grew up with Uber, etc. As it turns out, however, that's not actually true. On an absolute basis, baby boomers are the least patient and Gen Z is the most patient. And it literally is a stair step by generational cohort. Most patient, Gen Z. Second most patient, millennials. Third most patient, Gen X. And the least patient, baby boomers. I did not see that coming, but it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Now, you end the research study with 6 overarching recommendations, 6 ways to improve with the kind of the time to win research as your guide. Share just a couple of your favorite takeaways from those 6 recommendations.
One of them, I think that's pretty important, and we touched on it earlier, David, is this idea to not create a bias around specific contact mechanisms in your organization. So it's almost axiomatic to suggest that you should be really fast when somebody tweets you, et cetera, or when somebody sends you a text message. But the research shows that customers still prefer telephone over all other contact mechanisms when trying to reach a business. It also looks at the importance, as we mentioned, of contact us forms and emails and things like that. So these sort of legacy contact mechanisms, which we sort of treat as, black and white television, that's not a place where you can afford to be really slow. So trying to be fast across all contact mechanisms is definitely a worthy endeavor. I'd point that one out. And then the second one I would look at is, we just touched on it earlier in the sales context, find a way that you can always be first in a competitive situation. So whatever the scenario is that your customers are looking at you versus competitors, how can you be the fastest? Is it your website's just organized better, or your website itself loads faster? Is it you call people back faster? Is it you allow them to do live chat in a way that's really compelling? Like, how can you get them the answers they need before your competition? And I promise you, if you can make that happen, it will be worth its weight in gold to your top line.
And this also goes back to 2 of my favorite sales adages. Number 1, money loves speed. Money does love speed. And number 2, time kills deals. And time also kills customer experience, right?
Absolutely. And when you kill the customer experience, it may kill the deal. And if it doesn't kill the deal, it will certainly kill the second deal.
Yes. Oh my God. I'm never doing business with them again.
Yeah. I mean, look, I've got somebody working in my yard right now, and he's an awesome dude and love him. And he gave us a good price, but it was supposed to be done in 3 weeks and it's going to be 3 months. And I'm hoping it's going to get finished. And, the chances of us coming back for a second project are very, very small at this point.
Right. It's like the TikTok video about the chances of your golden retriever killing you are extremely small, but not zero.
Not zero. So non-zero chance. Exactly.
Right, exactly. Very, very small, though. Very, very small. Well, Jay Baer, such a pleasure. Tell people how can they get connected and stay connected to more Jay Baer brilliance, not just around time to win, but absolutely, let's talk about where they can get that, but around marketing and keynotes and everything that you do.
I would love for you to download the study. It won't cost you anything. It's pretty thorough and comprehensive, as David was so kind to point out. There's also infographics, there's videos, there's quotable graphics that you can use. There's a whole bunch of companion information as well. There's a dedicated website for this research. It's thetimetowin.com, thetimetowin.com. That's where you can get all the research. And then I have a newsletter that I come out with every 2 weeks called The Baer Facts, BAER. And each edition of the newsletter includes a marketing or customer experience lesson, typically drawn from my own colorful existence. There's tequila reviews, there's book reviews, there's podcast reviews, there's product reviews. Some people, and not just my mom, say it's the best newsletter in the world. You should grab it, thebearfacts.com.
I second and third that emotion.
Thank
you. Jay Baer, thank you so much for being with us. You're a rock star. I appreciate you, my friend.
Appreciate it, as always. Thanks so much, David.
And that wraps wraps up another episode of The Selling Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, tell a friend, go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thesellingshow.com. See you next time.